In my hometown, the birthplace of Mardi Gras, we just got finished celebrating Fat Tuesday, which means quickly thereafter, in fact immediately the next day, is Ash Wednesday and the beginning of Lent. Now during this time, if you actually take it seriously and don't just give up shooting pink elephants, many people take this as an opportunity to do some sort of a cleansing. In other words, they give something up for Lent. Usually it's something that's health conscious or affecting their health in a negative way. I know deep down, a lot of people that are successful during this time feel really good about themselves, but more importantly, they would love to make this change permanent. Well, how do you make a change permanent? In other words, how do you make a lifestyle change? The process of making a change today on the Personal Edge Fitness Podcast.
Welcome to the Personal Edge Fitness Podcast
with Garrett Williamson.
Health, wellness, exercise, nutrition, and a whole lot more. Got questions? Call us and leave a message at 251-278-EDGE or message us at Personal Edge Fitness on Facebook and Instagram, at Team PE on Twitter, or personaledgefitness.com.
Good day and welcome to the Personal Edge Fitness Podcast. Thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Garrett Williamson. I'm president of Personal Edge Fitness. I'm your host today for the Personal Edge Fitness Podcast. We're talking about what I call the process of change and actually what it takes to make a lifestyle change. I think it's rather timely since we have Lent going on and a lot of people are doing temporary fixes that they would like to make permanent. So first, I want to tell you how to get in touch with the show if you have any questions. And we had a lot of questions last week about our Catalyst Team program. I'm going to talk a little bit about that because we have a programming update also. If you're interested in contacting me, you can call me at area code 251-278-EDGE, E-D-G-E. It's 251-278-3343. You can also reach out to me at Garrett, Garrett, at personaledgefitness.com, which of course is my email address. And personaledgefitness.com is our website, and Personal Edge Fitness is our Facebook page. We take a lot of questions there. Now, before we get into the process of change, I'm really looking forward to covering this topic. I'm trying to keep this as brief as I can because I think this is going to affect a lot of people, and hope you can catch this if you're riding in your car or what have you, and you get all the aspects of this process of change. But real quickly, on the Catalyst Team program, because we've had a lot of interest in that, which I'm so glad to hear, and we've had a lot of people talk about, is this a weight loss program, and when kids lose the weight, they feel more confident? Is that what you mean about a Catalyst program that deals with weight loss and building confidence? No, it doesn't. I mean, that's fantastic. The main focus of this is two-pronged. Of course, we want kids to understand when they are dealing with nutrition, they want to understand the truth. That's our biggest point here. We want to make sure that they understand either now or when they really do take on making the decision to make some sort of a change or make sure that they have a healthy relationship with food, they have all the right facts. But the second part of this actually involves reading a book. And part of the book series, what's called the Sports for the Soul series that Joshua Gooch and I have reviewed, think the world of. We've been recommending it to people for a while. And actually these books talk about confidence. They talk about optimism. They talk about conquering fears. Each book has a several-step process on how to deal with whatever that topic is, whether it's optimism or it's conquering fears or it's just building confidence. And it doesn't matter which program you get into. We go over one book in each program, and it goes hand in hand, believe it or not. It goes hand in hand with our Catalyst weight loss program and our Catalyst lifestyle change program. So this is something we're very adept at. I have a lot of experience in the field of dealing with nutrition, especially when it comes to teens, because it's a rather pivotal time, and there's a lot of problems. I've seen it in my career. I said this in the podcast that we did last week when we talked to Joshua Gooch talking about the program. I told you about my extensive background in dealing with eating disorders, and especially eating disorders in kids, having been a gymnastics coach for 20 years in 6 different states, and actually having dealt with that with not only close friends, but also family members. This is something I'm very attuned to. I fully understand how careful you have to be about addressing any of those topics, and we do it in such a way that it does not bring about such problems. If you're interested in any more information about that, please do contact me at 251-278-3343. That's 251-278-EDGE. Or again, you can contact me at Garrett, Garrett, at personaledgefitness.com. Love to speak to you more about it, especially if it's something you may be wrestling with. It's not just for overweight kids by any means. It's for all kids, especially anybody that's battling confidence issues, self-esteem issues. That is the most important here. If your child has no weight issue whatsoever, perfect. We've got that going on in our pilot program right now. This is just letting them have the information about health and nutrition and building a bond and building in a group setting, creating new friendship base, and most importantly, talking about confidence, talking about optimism, talking about conquering fears, and basically dealing with bullying, which we see way too much of. That said, there was going to be a programming note. We're actually going to have Joshua Gooch back on with us again to talk about this because we're going to be launching a program quite quickly. We have quite a bit of interest in it. If you're interested in being involved, please contact us. Again, I'll keep you that phone number, but 251-278-EDGE, EDGE. That's 251-278-3343. We'd love to speak to you about it. Now, on to the process of change. I like the Lent season. Actually, I like the Mardi Gras season. I'm born and raised in Mobile. We are the birthplace of Mardi Gras. I'm very proud that our city not only puts on a very family-friendly Mardi Gras celebration, no offense to any other Mardi Gras that go on anywhere else, but very proud that we are the birthplace of Mardi Gras. And we have a very large Catholic population here in Mobile. It's not just Catholic, of course, Methodist, Episcopalians, and several people celebrate Lent. They use it as a time of kind of reset. And I like it from a health and fitness standpoint. I don't want to get into talking about religion here. I think it's wonderful for that, obviously. But just speaking from a health and fitness standpoint of what I do. In January, many people lay down the law. Okay, that's it. Going to make some changes. Got my New Year's resolutions. The number one New Year's resolution is getting organized. And the number two resolution, of course, is getting in shape. And as I've said before, and I've talked about New Year's resolutions, my favorite quote about that, I was at a New Year's Eve party with some friends. We were doing a wine tasting, quote unquote. And the reason I use the air quotes is that we tasted wine for about 4 hours straight. You can imagine that the mindset somewhat changed as the night went on. One of my fellow enophiles stood up to make a toast, and the toast was, "May your problems of the new year last as long as your New Year's resolutions do." And of course, I found that extremely funny because we all know what that means. We all know that everybody's gung-ho right out the door, and of course, we fall off shortly thereafter. We don't see it as much with our clients because we have accountability, but that is very popular. Now, back to Lent, the reason I like that so much is it's a reset, and it's a quick reset. It's a quick reset after those New Year's resolutions. So I love this opportunity that people take to kind of get their lives back in line, let's put it that way, to show focus where focus belongs. The challenge, though, it's just like New Year's resolutions. I spoke about this at the first of the year when I looked on a social media page and noticed that a friend of mine was making his change. He was making his New Year's resolutions. I'm throwing out the Oreos. I'm throwing out this, that, and the other. And I actually copied it. And then I went back a year previous and I copied his post on almost the exact same day. And I sent it to him. And the reason I sent it to him was the fact that it was the exact same. He said the exact same thing. I'm going to get rid of the Oreos. I'm going to change everything. He'd said the same thing the year prior. And I sent it to him and said, listen, when you're ready to stop making this change and actually have this stick, give me a call. This is what I'm talking about today. For those of you that are out there are making a temporary fix and you're thinking, wow, I've made this change, whether it's just giving up a food or exercising more or whatever it may be, you're getting involved right now. You're starting to feel probably a little bit better. You've gotten past the cravings phase if it's a food or the initial challenges that you have, taking yourself away from whatever that well, I hate to say it, whatever that possible addiction is, but you're starting to feel better. And I know at some point in time, if you stick with this, you're going to feel like, wow, I'd love for this to stick. I'd love for this to stay. Well, when it comes to food, of course, there's no such thing as bad food, and there's different relationships there that we would love to talk to you about. But how do you make that change stick? How do you make a lifestyle change? And there's something that's called the process of change. We all go through it. And to deny that you go through it, well, actually, it's one of the hindrances to making the change itself. These are the steps that we take actually to make a change. And the key to it, believe it or not, is deliberate action. Now, that sounds simple. Of course, Garrett, you have to do it. That's pretty easy. Fantastic. Thanks for the podcast. Now, what I mean by deliberate action is, let's talk about a simple change. Let's talk about a simple lifestyle change that all of us have been through something like this before. And by looking at a simple lifestyle change, you can easily understand how we make these more complicated changes or ones that seem more challenging to us. Now, a simple lifestyle change would be going from high school to college. I don't mean to say that's simple. Of course, that is a big lifestyle change, but the steps to it are easy. Okay, well, when you get up in the morning, where are you going to go? Well, you're going to go to your college, you're coming out of your college dorm, you're going to go to your college classroom, you're going to be in the city where your college is. That's pretty easy to understand. Yeah, well, look at the steps that you did to make that change. I mean, you spent 12 years, many of us, 12 years going to the exact same school from 8 to 3. Well, that whole pattern has to change. You can't show up a few days at college and then show up a few days in your old routine. What I call intermittent lifestyle change. No, you have to make a lifestyle change. You've got to move yourself over there. You've got to go to new classrooms. You've got to have different conversations. Your schedule changes from 8 to 3 more to 8 to 12. You've got to take care of your living expenses. You've got to take care of your living situation. You've got to make a whole new friend set. You've got to meet new professors, teachers. Think about your future. You've got 4 years to figure out your career. That is a major lifestyle change. But we think about, it's routine. We just do it. Well, you're forced to. You have serious accountability. I mean, if you show up 3 days at college and show up back in your routine 2 or 3 days, well, one thing, most likely you're going to get kicked out of the high school. And the second thing, you're going to flunk out of college. I mean, it's pretty easy. Well, the way you got there is actually by doing deliberate actions. I mean, you deliberately drove your car to the city. I moved when I went to the University of Georgia. I moved from Mobile. I moved to Athens. That's it. I was not living at home. I was living in a dorm. I had registered for my classes. My classes now started at 7:50, not at 8 o'clock. I didn't drive to them. I walked to them. These are deliberate actions you're forced to do. You have accountability, so you're forced to do them. When it comes to making a change like what we're talking about, typically there's not accountability there. Now, if you're working with a trainer, or we're working with us here at Personal Edge Fitness, as I've told people many times, the number one thing that we sell is accountability. But if you have no accountability, okay, you're going to have to be accountable to yourself. And these steps that I'm going to give you may seem very simple, and many people push them aside. Oh, yeah, that's okay. That's for somebody that needs a kindergarten method of doing this. I promise you, if you ignore these steps and you ignore this process, you're not going to make your change. I'll show you what I mean. There are actually resistance strategies that we all use. We have resistance to change. It's like a body in motion wants to stay in motion. We are pretty well wired to be resistant to change. That's most all of us. Even if you say, I like different things every single day. Well, do you? Do you want to wake up in a different place every single morning? Do you want to start a whole different routine? Do you want to go find somewhere else to get your breakfast every single day? Probably not. We do have a natural inclination to have a resistance to change. There are 4 different things that we use to resist change. One of them is delay. You typically procrastinate. I'm going to get started with that weight loss program, but I'm going to start, tomorrow. I got too much to do today. I'll justify all kinds of reasons, and you'll delay. The second one is denial. I'll show you what I mean. You refuse to acknowledge an actual event or personal experience that is apparent to others. I don't really think I eat too much as you finish your third helping or third plate of food. That is, I've decided to make a change, but I don't really think I've got this problem. I don't really think this is a challenge. It's denial. Delay and denial. There's another one you use is called rationalizing. Rationalizing, you conceal your feelings, thoughts, and actions by creating a set of reassuring or self-serving but incorrect explanations. And I'll show you what I mean. So I can't change now how I eat because I have to eat with my family. That's it. You see, I do it, but because I eat with my family, I can't change anything. That's rationalizing. Delay, denial, rationalizing. And last, of course, is just flat out avoidance. And avoidance can be a couple of different things. There's no way that I can do this because I failed in the past, and so I can't do it now. And that's just avoidance. Or another way of avoidance is, my whole life has to change now because I'm changing this food or I'm changing this new activity, so I can't do that. And it's using, this one change I'm making is going to upset my world so much that I can't make that change. And that's just it's avoidance. How do we conquer those? Because we face them all. I mean, one of those we're going to run into. We're going to run into delay, we're going to denial, rationalizing, or just flat out avoidance. One of those we're going to face. How do we overcome that? How do we overcome that resistance and actually make that change? Well, listen, real quick, just to remind you, if you have any questions about this topic or any others, or, of course, our Catalyst Team program or any of the programs that we offer, please feel free to contact me at 251-278-3343. That's 251-278-EDGE. Garrett at personaledgefitness.com. And you can also reach out to us, of course, on our website and our Facebook page. Now, the strategies for overcoming resistance. One of the most important, and I already mentioned it a second ago, happens to be accountability. And that's what we use talking about. The first strategy is actually talking about your fears and concerns. In other words, confronting them, admitting them. This is one of the most valuable tactics. And in fact, it's the first step in a 12-step program. It's first admitting you've got a problem, admitting you've got a challenge. It's okay. There's no problem with that. I mean, there really isn't. There's no problem with having a problem. That sounds a bit counterproductive there. But actually, what I mean by that is that we think of it as a fault. I've got a problem, so therefore I have a fault, and I don't want to mention it to anybody. It's okay. you're surrounded by imperfect people. I guarantee you. We all have those. And the really, really successful people, the people that really conquer their faults, the ones that really have the stiff backbone, that really make the difference, are the ones that are brave enough to admit them. In a 12-step program, you've heard it before. I've done it on this show before. Hello, I'm Garrett Williamson. I'm a caffeineaholic. I don't make a joke when I say that. People find that funny when I say it, but caffeine is one of the addictive chemicals, just like alcohol and different drugs and what have you. The first time I had to confront my own challenges with caffeine, I had to admit, hey, I'm Garrett, I'm a caffeineaholic. So talking about your fears and concerns with somebody else is very important. Even if you've done something in Lent, something as simple as, the fact that I gave up potato chips because, I just go out of control with those. Now I'm going to talk to you about, why you're overeating. It happens to do one of two reasons, either stress or lack of water is why you're overeating. And then if it's stress, we're going to find out and identify those stress patterns, and then we're going to deal with those stress patterns to actually fix that craving, that problem with quote-unquote potato chips. And I say quote-unquote because I promise you, if you took potato chips away, there'd be something else you replace it with. But the first thing is to actually talk about those fears, talk about your concerns, and avoid negative and pessimistic, anxious thoughts. We beat ourselves up when we're facing a fault. There's no value in that. There's no money in that. It doesn't help you. Don't be pessimistic. Confront it. It's no problem. We're going to be optimistic. We're going to fix this. We're going to change this. But let's take it head on. Let's identify the problem and actually talk about our fears and concerns with someone else. Have an accountability partner. So what we are here at Personal Edge Fitness for our clients, we're an accountability partner. You wouldn't believe the different things that people tell us and share with us, and it's the whole reason that all of us choose to be in this field. We strongly desire to be in that position. It makes us feel better about being ourselves by helping people. But you want an accountability partner. You want to talk about your concerns and fears. Second thing is educate yourself. This is what I was talking about a minute ago. I used the potato chips example because it seems so simple. No big deal. Just don't buy Lay's potato chips. Boom, solve the problem. No, it's beyond that. It's farther than that. It's deeper than that. And that's what I'm talking about. Educate yourself. When we do our Catalyst program, we talk about that in lifestyle change. This is this is an entire lesson that we spend, and we actually revisit it later on in the program on the process of change. Because part of it is educating yourselves, and we educate people in our Catalyst program about the fact that this ridiculous, idiotic, ignorant concept that there is such thing as bad food, and that's our problem, is, pardon me for saying this and using the strong language, I do it to make a point, and that is it's asinine. As I've said before, it is an absolute lie. If anybody's telling you that, they're lying to you. If anybody says that, you are a liar. There is no such thing as bad food. And that's part of the education that we do about when dealing with food. So it's not just giving up the potato chips or not eating this dessert or whatever, which you've done 1,000 times and can't figure out why you keep going back to it. No, it's much deeper than that. It comes down to cravings. Why do we crave? We crave because 40% of the reason is lack of water, and the rest of it is stress. Why are we stressed? What's going on with stress? How do we correct stress? And how do we deal with stress? That's called education. It's not just giving up potato chips. And third, and this is the one that you're gonna hit this again when we get to those steps to making a change and the deliberate steps to making a change. But this is the one that too many of us overlook. And it's the one I say weak people overlook. And the reason I say that is because too many people doing this last step, which is the payoff, think, well, I'm better than that. I don't need that. That's a weak person. That's somebody trying to act like they're strong, but they're being weak. And what I'm talking about in this last step is the right payoff. Now, what I mean by that is once you've talked about and dealt with your concerns, once you've educated yourself, and now you're trying to make this change, you want to reward yourself. Why? Because that's exactly what you're doing, most likely, with whatever you're trying to get rid of, whatever you're trying to get out of your life. I'll show you what I mean. If it's giving up smoking, why do we smoke? We smoke because of an addiction to nicotine, period, end of story. We may have started because it looked cool. We may have done it because we're a James Dean fan, but the reason we continue doing it is addiction to nicotine, period, end of story. If you say it's not, you're lying to yourself. That's the first step of not making a change, which is denial. So the reason we continue to smoke and addiction to nicotine, and why do we have addiction to nicotine? Why is our body craving that? Is it makes us feel a little bit better. Yeah, there's a lot of negative effects to it, but it makes us feel a little better when you're wanting a cigarette. You're wanting a cigarette when you feel stressed, period. That's it. When you smoke the most, when you're stressed the most, period. So the cigarette, believe it or not, is actually a reward. It is a signal to your brain, and it pops that nicotine in and makes your brain feel a little bit better. It's the whole reason we continue to smoke. Whole reason an alcoholic continues to drink. Whole reason that a caffeineaholic continues to go get coffee. As soon as they get stressed, they're running and getting a cup of coffee because it makes them feel better. That is a reward. That is a reward. And it's a reward that you use deliberately, which became subconscious. That's hard to understand. When we get to the steps here in just a second, you'll see we have to use those deliberate actions in our conscious to change subconscious. That's how we change everything. Pavlov's dog. Everybody knows that. Ring a bell, the dog would salivate. Well, the dogs consciously had to connect the bell to feeding. And so when Pavlov fed the dog, rang a bell, fed the dog, rang a bell, fed the dog, rang a bell. It was in the conscious of the dog's brain first before it became subconscious. When he rang a bell, the dog would salivate. We do the exact same thing. Nicotine addiction, caffeine addiction, any of this, we do the exact same thing. So if you want to get yourself out of it, make sure you have the right payoff. You have the right reward. I'll show you what I mean. Here's an assignment that I want you to actually take yourself through. If you really want to make a change, if you really truly do want to make a change, you don't just talk about it. You're getting past those strategies for avoiding the denial, the delay. You're getting past all of that. You really want to make a change. Take yourself through this exercise. Now, it's brief, it's simple, it's kindergarten level, I know, but I promise you, if you take this seriously and go through this exercise and keep practicing it, you will actually make that change. Identify a behavior you would like to change. Something simple. And I've got an example here that we use when we actually talk about it in Catalyst. I stopped by the local bakery on my way to work every morning for donuts. I had people in my group one time tell me that they'd taken a completely different route because they're trying to go to a certain coffee place. They were taking a completely different route which actually made them late for work. That's what their addiction was doing to them. Record what events and circumstances happen before or lead to that behavior. So you're going to the donut shop every single morning. What leads to that behavior? I get up early in the morning just so I can take that route and I make sure that happens. I don't have breakfast before I leave. Whatever it is, write down those things that create that situation. Number 3, examine the consequences of your behavior to help you understand why you're doing that behavior. I pick up the donuts because it makes me feel good. I like donuts. It makes me feel great. There's sugar in the donut. That's how it's making me feel good. And on top of that, I go for that extra reward because I happen to bring some to my friends at work and they like me for it. They appreciate it. That's a reward. That's why you're doing it. Examine the consequences of the behavior. That is exactly why you're doing it. Number 4, state your goals in a clear, precise manner. I don't want to stop doing that. Is not a clear and precise manager. Clear and precise manner. In other words, I take this different route. I want to stop taking this different route to go to the coffee shop in order to order the triple grande latte, yada, yada, yada. Because I want to cut that out of my program. I want to get myself off of that. I want to take that out of my life. The more details you can get about it, the more focused you're going to be on it. We talk about this in the book, Think and Grow Rich. You got to be focused about your target. Got to be focused about your goal. Number 5, develop an action plan. This sounds simple. Because people say, well, I used to drive there. I'm just not going to drive there anymore. No, develop a serious action plan. Okay, well, what steps did it take to make that action? I got up early. I skipped breakfast. I looked forward to it. I planned the donut shop in my head. Okay, what am I going to do now? Well, I'm going to get up early, but I'm going to have breakfast at home. I'm going to make sure I drive the other way to work. I'm going to and if I feel like I need to bring my coworker something, I'll bring them flowers. I mean, something. And I don't mean to be ridiculous, or find another way to gratify yourself without feeling like you have to get appreciation from your coworkers by bringing them donuts. But you want to develop a clear, concise action plan to get yourself to make this change. And the last one, remember I said I would bring it up earlier. This is extremely important because you do this already with whatever you're trying to get away from. And that is, finally, after the tactic has been changed successfully, executed, identified, and put into place, find a reward. Find a whatever it is. If it's food that you're using, you're trying to get away from it, find a non-food reward. Find something that doesn't get you back into an unhealthy addiction. One of my best examples, I had a person in the Catalyst program use this. I thought it was great. They would, around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, they would go out and just take a break from the office. Well, what they were doing, they were driving around and they were taking in extra calories at either fast food places or what have you. And they were doing that. That was really what they were going on. They identified what was going on. I have this addiction and I keep going out and feeding it. And I use examples like I need to get out of the office, whatever, to make this change. So what they did instead is they found out that, they owned their business, but it was just criminal in their mind to stop and read in the middle of the day. But they love to read. Okay. They actually gave themselves permission. Had to work past it because it was really difficult for them to sit in their office and do nothing but read. But they already realized they were losing that time during the day to go out every single day and make that run around at 2 o'clock. So instead, they took that time, closed the door in the office, and sat and read. Pretty soon, that deliberate action, just like Pavlov's dog, that deliberate action became something they looked forward to. They woke up Monday morning, they were happy. Why were they happy? Because they knew 2 o'clock was coming, and they got sit and read. You can actually create that kind of subconscious thought. Again, making that process of change, taking these steps is extremely important. You've got to be very deliberate about making the change. And sitting there telling yourself, I'm just going to give this up and I'm never going to do it again, without an action plan, I promise you is going to fail. If you have any questions about this, would you contact me, please, at area code 251-278-3343. That's 251-278-EDGE. You can also reach out to me at Garrett, Garrett, at personaledgefitness.com. You can reach out to us at personaledgefitness.com, which is our website, and, of course, our Facebook page, Personal Edge Fitness. I'm a fan of those temporary fixes because they can lead to lifestyle changes. But you've got to take the right steps to get yourself there. You've got to put a plan in place, a game plan in place that is actually going to work for you, just like everything else you do in your life that's successful. Making that change, putting that plan into place, taking those simple steps, it is the way to make a lifestyle change. And this advice, of course, is one more way that we help you live your level of wellness. Thank you so much for joining me today. Stay tuned for next week, where we're going to have Joshua Gooch back on talking about the Catalyst Teen program. Obviously, this is near and dear to my heart. Please reach out to us if you have any questions about that. And as always, stay hydrated.
Thanks for listening to the Personal Edge Fitness Podcast with Garrett Williamson. Subscribe now and be a part of the show by calling 251-278-EDGE or message us on Facebook and Instagram at Personal Edge Fitness or at Team PE on Twitter, and visit us at personaledgefitness.com.